Good morning, evening, afternoon, night, whatever time of day it is for you. Um, as most of you know, if you've watched any of my previous videos, um, which most likely you haven't because no one watches any of my videos, I've had a family member pass. Um, I also had another family member pass not too long after that. Um, Although I don't consider the last one to be an actual family member, that's just me personally. My sister has decided that she's going to care. She just needed an excuse for God knows what. So, um, in the chaos that is death, I have kind of I have found it harder and more difficult to go out and do things, um, which apparently has made my mother really concerned about my well being because I'm not going out as much anymore. And every time that we do go out, I tend to get an anxiety attack. Um, so, here's a quick gist. My grandmother passed, and although me and her didn't get along very well, there are still some things that I'm going to miss about her, especially her Thanksgiving meals. She was the best at them. Her food always tasted just fantastic. Um, the second person to pass was my biological father, who has never been a part of my life. So this may annoy some people or may piss them off in some way. Um, I'm not entirely sure where to start with my feelings on that certain subject, but when I heard the news, I thought it was my dad. Um, Most of you are like, but your biological dad just. What? My biological father is only a sperm donor to me. Um, Him and my mother were not a good match, and he was very possessive and abusive. So, as far as I'm concerned, he's not family and he's nowhere close to being my dad, especially since he had never been a part of our lives ever. Now, that being said, when I turned 16, he tried to get a hold of us. Um, my mother was just along the lines of don't talk to him at all. Um, so I told him, unless you were going to give me a ton of money, I have no reason to speak to you. That fended him off very well because he went after my sister at that point, who is extremely gullible and believes that he's the good person. So I'm pretty sure she had been in contact with him for a while, on and off. Um, doing God knows what. But my sister received the news that he had passed and called me and said she had some bad news for me. Now, when she said dad died, my first thought went to the man who raised us, or at least tried. Um, and I was literally on the verge of tears, and she was like, "Not him, not him." She was like, "Our biological father." And I don't know about anybody else and how your situations go and how you deal with death, but the first thing that came out of my mouth was, "Oh, I don't care." I don't care. I literally do not care. I tried to change the subject because I am tired of listening to her sniffle and cry all the time. She wanted to move to a new place in Iowa with her cheating boyfriend. That's her fucking problem. Of course, you're not going to have any friends. You've never lived there before. You moved away from everybody with a cheating boyfriend. So I tried to change the subject. I was just like, how are things going up there in Iowa? She started bawling. I have no friends, Kathleen, and my dad just died. So I hung up the phone. Afterwards, I started hysterically laughing. And it's not because I think that he deserves to die. And it's not because it's just, I don't know how he died. I was more along the lines of laughing at how little I cared. You know? Like, it was actually quite surprising to me. So the anxiety took over and just started laughing. Of course, I actually started laughing at something funny when my mother called me after I had her friend inform her of what had happened. We were up in North Carolina, okay, for Halloween with my aunt and her three kids. Um, and granted, it has not been very long since my grandmother passed. Um, so my mother was out in Mars Hill with a friend of hers, and I know my mother's phone doesn't work out there. So after I hung up on my sister and got the some of the laughing out of the way, I ended up calling my mom's friend and was just like, "So is Mama there? Because I kind of need to talk to her." She was like, "She went out to go and get some creamer. She needed the hazelnut so bad." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds about right." I was wondering when she was going to go and do that. So me and her friend were talking for a short while, and I informed her that my biological father had passed. Um, and again started laughing. My mom's friend decided that it would be best if she told my mother because she's not entirely sure how she would react. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to know how she's going to react. Um, Her true feelings on the matter may be a bit complicated, but I know how she's going to react. I got a call back uh, from my mom after she was informed, and the first thing my mom says when I answer the phone is, "So the Wicked Witch is dead." And I lost it. I just started laughing hysterically. The passing of my grandmother hit a lot harder. The passing of my grandpa hit a lot harder. Um, the passing of a lot of people hit me more seriously than anything else because I knew them. Um, since he had never actually tried to get to know us, it was not a big concern. It was just like some random person passed and I'm supposed to care. I'm sorry, I don't. Yeah, it sucks when people pass. My grandmother was cancer. My grandpa, we're not entirely sure. And I never heard any news uh about how he died either. So, because I had had an opportunity to actually be around my grandmother and grandfather, I actually felt something. Um, and everybody handles all of that differently. I tend to be a person that's not going to sit there and cry about it forever, although it is depressing. Um, I'm pretty sure I uploaded a video like maybe a couple of days after my grandma had passed. Was it a couple of days? Maybe a week? I'm not entirely sure. I did a upload video informing everyone that she had passed. Oh, and that it would be a while before I returned to doing videos that no one watches just because I can. Um, anyway, getting off that subject, there are three, four, three or four. I'm not in. I can't remember very well. There are some mangas that I had found that four. There's four of them that have a male lead that I've actually found myself enjoying for once. The first one is Tales of Demons and Gods. I've talked about this one a lot. I haven't gone back to reading it just yet because I happened to stumble upon another one after the chapters ran out, and it suggested that I read Am I Invincible? Am I Invincible is about a reincarnated person who is in the body of someone who cannot cultivate, supposedly. Um, and he also has a system that he has to do all these sorts of tasks to gain rewards and stuff. Everyone around this guy or who meets this guy feels that he is superior to them. So they keep calling him senior. Of course, this guy doesn't really understand what's going on. Um, and I'm not entirely sure what was going on. There was a lot of confusing points, and they never really go into a lot of his backstory. I suspect that he was like an immortal um, or something along those lines that reincarnated and didn't want to have his memories. And so the system became a thing for him and some chick to communicate back and forth, her to inform him to make him stronger or something. Um, as far as he's concerned, though, he's just a normal human. As far as everyone around him is concerned, he's a god. Now, it is hilarious. It's not based heavily on romance, and there's not much of a harem situation going on, which I absolutely love. I Am Immortal led me to another book that is called um, Novels Extras. Let's see. The Novels Extra, and in parentheses it says remake. I don't know if it's actually a remade um, version of another story, but this is the one that I stumbled upon and I absolutely love it. Now, it only has, I just exited out of it for some God knows reason. It only has 42 chapters so far. And it's about Kim Ha-jin. I'm not pronouncing that correctly. Chinese names, Korean names, very difficult for me to work it out. I can barely get Japanese names right, let alone my own. Um, anyway, the Novels Extra remake um, is amazing. A guy wrote a story, fell into a slump, and ended up getting transmigrated. Wasn't reincarnated, so transmigrated into his own story. Now, just before that happens, he receives an email of someone who wants to improve the story. So basically, he gets a co author. And because he was transmigrated into his own story, the co author is basically fucking with him at this point. Again, not very heavy on harem type deals and not very heavy on romance. He does have girls around him. They're fairly attractive. I find them fairly annoying, just not as annoying as Kagome. Um, reading that one had led me to yet another story. Um, at the bottom, it was like suggestions for you, and it led me to Invincible at the Start. Um, I am in love with this story. I am 49 chapters in. I believe there's 80 something. I'm not entirely sure. There are more chapters. I'm not entirely sure how many it goes up to. I believe it's somewhere in the 80s. I'm not entirely sure because I didn't pay very close attention. When I started reading it, I spaced out and I just kept reading it. But I've made it to chapter 49. And this one isn't much like the other ones where you get a system um, that basically just tells you what to do, uh, quests to fill out, and it gets really repetitive. This one, on the other hand, is more of a rebellion against the system. At first, the system's just there to help him. Um, it's trying to improve itself by using him. as its host, and it starts turning into him kind of rebelling the system in certain ways and defining logic. And it is another cultivation story. Again, our main character in this one, cannot cultivate, has an eternal body, which means that demons and monsters alike want to eat him. Um, and he's had to work on covering that smell up. Also, he cannot leave his domain, otherwise, he will get eaten. In his domain, he is literally invincible. Um, it is a really good story. Now, this one does have more of a harem theme going on, as there are a lot of girls around him, and they're really dirty minded, but whatever. They can keep their heads in the gutter for all I care. Him, on the other hand, although he thinks that they're cute, they're not his type. Now, the girl that ends up being his wife, I don't know if they actually ever got married. She basically just owns him in a sense, um, until she finds out that, anyway, uh, he calls her wife, she calls him husband. So I like her a lot more than any other, um, mainly because of her innocence. It's adorable, and not wanting to focus on romance and wanting to make herself stronger, to improve, to save her family and stuff like that. Um, so I really enjoy this story. And after I'm done here and I watch a movie while eating, I am going to go back and start reading. Because I'm at chapter 49. I'm halfway through chapter 49 and I want to read more. It is a really good story. So, to anyone who is looking for a good story with a male lead, even if you tend to fancy the female leads a little bit more, I have four suggestions. Tales of Demons and Gods. Very good one. Main lead is Nolly. I Am Invincible. I can't remember the main lead's name. It is hilarious though. It is more comedy centered, I want to say. Novels remake. It is. It kind of reminds me of what is that one called? That anime with the boy with the sister with the ice powers, and everyone thinks he's a piece of crap, but he's really overpowered. Irregulars at high school or some crap like that. Novels remake main character Kim Ha-jin reminds me of that, um, in a sense. Um, he also ends up attaining a desert eagle, which can change forms to different types of guns. It is awesome. And of course, everyone thinks he's super overpowered. Um, then there's Invincible from the Start, or Invincible at the Start. Invincible at the Start, which is also very good. There is a slight bit of comedy. Um, The drawing style kind of reminds me of Tales of Demons and Gods, and um, I just had it. Where did it go? Dragon Ball and One Punch Man. It kind of has those types of qualities to it, and I absolutely adore it for it for that. So yeah, those are the only four with male leads that I've actually enjoyed. Usually, when you get a male lead, it's all about how many girls can he get under his belt, um, and it's heavily focused on romance. And it's like really, the story said it was an adventure romance, not romance. They hardly ever go on adventures. Well, these four tend to be different. Um, Now, they're not heavily focused on adventure. Each one has their own reason for doing what they're doing. The Tales of Demons and Gods, I stopped reading at chapter 280 something, and I never took a break from reading that. I read it all the way through. The only breaks that I took were personal breaks to either go to the bathroom, eat, or go outside and smoke. Otherwise, it was constantly just reading this story. I could not take my eyes off of it. I Am Invincible. I did take one break in between that one to read something else because it kind of got a little repetitive. But it still ended up being a very good story. Um, the novel's extra remake is, again, just kind of sucks you in. Now, be forewarned that within the first, I believe, two chapters, he does not have a face. Okay, he literally has a question mark that because he was not he was not a finished character. He wasn't a character that existed in this guy's book. Okay, um, the co-author who is remaking it uh, is kind of adding in more characters for certain purposes. Now, I understand where the co author is going, and I understand the main author's viewpoint on someone screwing with his story, but he did agree to have this person remake it and touch it up. Um, so they're both kind of just screwing with each other at this point. It is a very good story. I could not stop reading it, and I am so sad that there are not more chapters because I want to keep reading it. It was getting really good. Um, and Invincible at the start starts out with a little bit of a background story. Uh, he is a reincarnated person. I'm just not entirely sure what he did or if he's actually reincarnated at all. They do say he is reincarnated, and I'm kind of still iffy on that because he doesn't seem like a reincarnated person. Besides, when he's using the system, it's always fighting the system or wondering why the system is trying to get him to do certain things. Um, but he's not oblivious completely to the world outside of his domain. It is more along the lines of he's trying to protect himself, and the domain, the more it expands, the more knowledge he gets, the stronger he gets, the more skills that he unlocks and stuff like that. It is really interesting. I absolutely love it. And I hope that if they ever make an animation out of it, it follows the story. It follows the manga closely. Because I swear to God, if I read another manga that I absolutely love and they make an anime out of it and they ruin it, I'm going to kill somebody. I've said my piece. Um, that is all I wanted to talk about today. So, novel recommendations with a male lead. There are four: Tales of Demons and God, Am I Invincible, the novels extra remake, Invincible at the Start. If you are bored and you are looking for a good story to read, take a look at them. They're really good. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, night, whatever time of day it is for you. And I will try to upload videos a little more often. I'll see you later. Bye.